a look at how we essentially design and develop a website or a web app from scratch. We would be taking a look at tools like Figma, and we will be designing an overall user interface for a website. Later, we'll be jumping onto React and we'll have a very brief introduction on what React is, how it stands out from the different libraries and frameworks out there, and how you can use it. On day 2, which is tomorrow, we'll have a look at how we use Git and GitHub to maintain our projects. And we'll also be developing the backend part of this entire project. And on day 3, we'll be containerizing everything and deploying it so that it can be there on the internet. And that's how we'll basically be demonstrating you how real projects are made. All right. So if that is something that excites you as a beginner, I'm guessing I would really suggest you stay tuned with us for the next 3 days. And yeah, I think we're good to go. I'll just share my screen and we'll start. All right. Is there anything that anybody wants to say or wants to ask about this? Any clarifications? Yeah, please go ahead, Mohit.
So this workshop is going to be suitable for the absolute beginner, right?
Yeah. If you're an absolute beginner, I would basically be telling you, if you're a self-taught developer or a designer, how you can get started with web development and designing and developing web apps, and how you can deploy it. So by this end of this seminar, by the end of this workshop, you'd at least have a very good understanding on how web apps are designed and deployed in real life.
What is the role of containerization and deployment in a website?
So basically, we'll be covering all the aspects of containerization on day 3. And over there, you'd be learning all the aspects of it.
Okay.
All right. So I guess we are good to go now. All right. Just a second. So I hope you guys can see my screen. Can I have some feedback?
Yeah, your screen is visible. It's perfect.
All right. All right. Okay. So let's start. So why are we choosing Figma, and what is the basic very first step of designing and developing a software? So if you know or if you don't know, Figma or Adobe XD, if you've heard it, is one of those softwares which are basically used to design the user interface of any web application. So if there's any web app or Android app or iOS app, anything that you see, any application that you see has at some point been designed inside of Figma or Adobe XD. Okay, so Figma is one of the most popular choices among designers, and that's why I would be starting with Figma, because I feel like this is a really good start. Okay, so let's see what all we will be covering today. We'll start with the introduction of tools which are in Figma. Okay, because you need to be very familiar with the tools or the tools that are available for you in Figma, and only then we'll proceed with topics like color palettes and frames and a few more advanced topics. So let's start. So basically, whenever we start designing, the very first step is to decide what you are designing for, right? If it's a website, if it's an Android device, if it's a layout you're designing for, let's say, an iOS application, you have to decide first, right? And for that, we have something here called as the artboard, right? So these are all the tools that you can see here on Figma. There might be people among you who have already used Figma or Adobe XD at some point, but if you're an absolute beginner, I'll just go step by step and just show you what all these tools are and what roles they play. All right. So over here you have the move tool. That is very simple. You can just simply move anything. All right. So a very basic tool, move. Coming on to the frame tool, which is one of the most important tools. A frame is basically a sort of a group of layouts, right? You can think of it that's that way. So if I've defined a frame over here, I can assume that this is one of the pages in my website. Okay, so you can think it that way. You can obviously change the dimensions of it and basically make it suitable according to your website or application. Okay, next we have these shapes, different shapes that you can use. It could be a rectangle, it could be a circle, or it could be just a horizontal or a vertical line, or it could be an arrow, anything. So you can pick your shapes from here. Next, you have a pen tool, which you won't be using more often, but still at some point you will be using it. So these are basically used to make SVG shapes. All right. Next, you have the text tool, which you use to basically enter some sort of text inside of it. And then you have this panel on the right hand side, which is probably the most used thing in Figma. Okay, so what is it? If you see, it is basically the properties of whatever you have selected. So right now I've selected a frame, so it shows me all the properties that I can possibly edit or make changes in inside of Figma. Okay, so you can change, let's say, the width and the height. So as of now, I'll go ahead and set it to 1920 by 1080 because that is the standard frame size that is used while designing a website. So it's 1920 by 1080. All right. So right now I have a frame and I can place elements inside of it. Okay. And similarly, we can have different frames. We can clone these frames. You can hold the Alt key and then just drag this frame. And you can have multiple views. So everything will become even more clear as we proceed forward. So if there's something that is confusing you, don't worry about it. Everything will make sense by the end of it. Okay, everything will just start connecting. So what is the very first step of designing? We have a frame, okay, but we also have to decide what theme we are going for. Okay, so generally you must have seen that there is either a dark theme or a light theme, and there are colors, right? So at very first we design a color palette. Am I going a little too fast? All right, I'll slow down. Okay, fine. So right now we will be defining a color palette. Now, what is a color palette and why is it important? So in any website or web application, if you have seen, there are certain colors that are used. Okay, and you cannot use any color which is not going together, right? For example, if I take let's take any website, let's take YouTube, for example. Okay, or let's say GitHub. I think we should go for the GitHub. All developers sitting here. So as you can see, we have a certain theme going on here, right? We have a dark theme with accent color as green, and then at some point we have other colors as well. Not much colors going on over here, but yeah, I think you get the idea, right? So a certain theme has been pre-decided. So that is what we are going to prepare a color palette. Okay, so how do you prepare a color palette? You basically create a bunch of colors over here, not exactly create, but a bunch of shapes, and then we populate it with the colors of our choice. Okay, so now one of the major questions that you must be asking is, one of the problems that a lot of designers face is they are not able to find the colors, the right colors that would fit in together, or that would go and that would look good together basically. So for that, you have three resources that I would like to suggest, and those are, one is Tailwind CSS colors, one is okay, so I'll go one by one. I'll just show you basically. So you can go to this specific website, or you can type Tailwind color palette. Okay, and Tailwind is basically one of the libraries from CSS for CSS that you can use to design your web applications. So here you can see they have a bunch of color palettes, and you can choose whatever color you wish to put in your website. Okay, so let's say I choose let's choose an accent color. So let's go with the blue 600. So I've copied the hex code, and I'll color this specific box with the hex code. All right. So now we have one color, and we know that this is going to be the accent color of this entire website. Okay. So what we can do is we can prepare multiple such colors, or we can prepare a color palette which can have sort of accent color, which is going to be the primary color for the website, on the background colors, and sort of secondary colors, right? So here I would pull in a color palette. Just there we go. So this is a color palette that I had already, and as you can see, I have just 4 colors in here. Obviously, you can go with any number of colors as you want to. But here I have chosen orange as my accent color, this specific white as my background color, and these 2 as my secondary colors. Right. So let's keep these aside for a while, and let's focus on the content, on what we are gonna actually put inside this frame, right? So what are we gonna design exactly today? So today we'll basically be designing a recipe web application. Okay, just sort of assuming that we are designing a website which offers or shows you the recipes for different food. Okay, any user can let's say upload their own recipes, and the others can see it. Okay, so what are the essential things that should be there in a landing page? Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is a nav bar, right? Because if you see in any of the websites, there is definitely a nav bar. If you see here in Tailwind CSS, this is the nav bar. Okay, this has obviously different features, like you can change the theme, you can go to different nav links, you can go to the documentation components, wherever you like. But this nav bar is something which is basically common in all the websites that you see, or rather in most of the websites. So first, let's start designing the nav bar, right? So if we have to take inspiration as to what your designing would look like, and let's say you have no idea what you're designing, a very good website is Dribble. Okay. During the session, I would also be giving you a little, these resources which you can follow to learn. So this website is a pretty good website from where you can take inspiration, just seeing different designs and how they are being developed, or rather how they are being designed. So here, if I search, let's say nav bar, I should be getting something, and then we'll see what sort of nav bars we generally have, right? So, all right, here you can see we have nav bars for iOS devices, mobile devices, basically, like this one. But we are looking for a website which would be seen on a desktop. So let's just search a landing page, and let's see what sort of nav bars are used in those. All right, so let's pick anyone. All right, so here you can see on the top we have this nav bar, and I can see 2 sections of it, right? One is the logo section, which basically introduces the company, the name, or the tagline maybe, and then I can see a few nav links with it, and I can also see a get started button. So I can at least have a basic idea as to what I want to put in. Let's see this one. This looks pretty good. All right, so again, the same thing. We have a logo over here, we have a few nav links, and then we have a couple of buttons. So let's follow the same pattern, and let's try to design something. Let's try to come up with something. Okay. So let's put in our heading first. Let's try to come up with a name. I think let's set the font size to 20, and maybe we'll name it Easy Recipe. That's what comes to my mind right now for the website. And we can change the properties from here. Each font property, you can see we can set the font weight. It could be regular, medium, bold, anything that you want. Let's go with bold for this one, and the font size will be 20. I'll set it as 20, and yeah, I think that's about it for this specific logo right here. So I'll place it on top left. Now, as you might have noticed, this looks pretty small, right, on this entire frame. Now that is because this artboard is of 1920 by 1080 resolution, right? So when the standard 1920 by 1080 resolution is seen on Figma, yes, Figma is free to use, but to some extent. All right, so you can just sign in on the website, Figma website, and then you can use it for free. All right. Yeah, so as I was saying, this specific frame is of 1920 by 1080 resolution. So that's why this looks pretty small. But when you see it on a larger screen, this would come about the right size. Okay, and this is generally the font size that is used for headings in most of the websites. Okay, so the general font size that you see here, this is 16 pixel. Okay, so these are some certain standards that we follow while designing a website. Like the heading would be about 24 to 36 pixels. The normal paragraph could be 14 or 16 pixels, depending upon the choice of the developer. Okay, so here we have the heading. We'll also put in some nav links over here, and we'll also include a button. All right. But before jumping to nav links, I would like to introduce another concept in Figma, which is a very important concept. Even though a lot of people don't follow it, but if you start following it, this makes very easy for you to maintain your designs later on in the process. Okay, so let's add a few nav links. Let's say features, and clone it. So let's name this recipes, about, and contact. All right, so for now, let's keep just 4 of these nav links, and I'll set the font weight and the font size. Cool. So right now, as you can see, all these elements are independent of each other and they're not grouped together, right? And that is where a very important concept comes in, which is called as auto layout. All right. And now what is auto layout? If you guys have already worked in CSS, you must be familiar with something called as flexbox, right? So Figma brings the properties of flexbox inside this Figma website. Okay. So basically you can arrange all of these elements as if these are individual H1 elements or H2 elements inside of a div container, right? So how do we use it? First, we select each and every of these. We press Shift A, and now as you can see, these are all aligned perfectly, right? But if you notice here on the top right hand side, sorry, not top, right, yeah, on the right hand side, here we can see certain properties. Now, what are these? These are basically the properties that you would find in Flexbox. All right. So as you can see here, we can set the direction of these elements. It could either be vertical or horizontal, and we can set the alignment of these, right? So this would be center, this would be left, top, right. All these properties you can use. For now, let's go with center, right? We can also set the spacing, and we can also set the horizontal gap between each of these elements. So if I go here, I can drag it, and you see, we can change this horizontal spacing over here. So I think 40, just a second, yeah. I think 40 would be a good number as spacing between each element. And we'll align it horizontally, but we don't need to eyeball each and everything, because later on we will also sort of containerize these. Okay, don't get confused with the word containerization. It's not the actual term containerization that we basically mean in web dev. This is basically grouping elements together here. Okay, but as of now, let's just leave it here, and let's design a button. So for button, what we can do is we can have shapes here. I'll choose a rectangle, and I can put a text inside of it, but that is not the preferred way. That is not the best practice that you should follow. Rather, what you can do is you can again follow auto layouts, right? Let's see how. So let's say I would like to call the button as account. So I'll write account. All right, I'll set the font size. Let's make it 16 pixels and semi-bold. Okay. Now, if I convert it to an auto layout by pressing Shift A, what I can do is I can sort of set the padding around it. All right. So right now it's 10 pixels on the x-axis and the y-axis. So horizontal and vertical padding right now is 10 pixels. Okay. Now what we can do is we can also provide a background color like this. So as we prepared this color palette earlier, this is where we are going to use it. What I can do is I can sort of provide a color to the button which matches our theme. Since our accent color is this orange, we can definitely go ahead with it, right? But it looks sort of cluttered, so we'll increase the horizontal padding a little bit and change the color so that it's nice and contrasty and you can see it better. We can set the border radius from here, top right. Let's go ahead and give it a border radius. Cool. So now we have a button, we have a nav link, and we have a logo. Now, how do we align everything together? Now, in order to align everything together using auto layouts, everything should be a frame. All right. So press Shift A and convert everything to a frame. As you can see here on the left, we have frame 1. Inside that, we have frame 2, frame 3, and frame 4. All right. So frame 1 is our main frame, the white one that you can see. And frame 2, 3, and 4 are the buttons, the nav links, and the logo. Cool. So we can select everything and then again convert it to auto layout. And as you can see, everything has aligned properly. So now we can choose to align these whichever way we want. But I'll choose center. And now I can see everything is center aligned and it looks really nice. All right, so let's change the background color with our primary color that we have here, or rather the background color that we had in our palette. Okay.
How do we put color in the button again?
You mean this one?
Yes.
All right. So as soon as I turn this into an auto layout, basically Figma gives us an option which is called as a fill. All right, so I'll just show you again. I'll remove this, and now you can see it's not visible. That's because the font color is also white. But when I select the frame, I can click on this fill option. I hope you can see it. Is it visible to you?
Yes, it is visible.
All right, so you can click on it and then you can change the color, right? And over here you have this hex code. So this we can use the color picker and choose the accent color of choice. Is that clear? Or like, should I explain it even more? All right, I hope it's clear for you.
Yeah, it's clear for me.
All right, so now we have our nav link ready, but it looks pretty empty. So let's see how a landing page basically looks like. Let's choose something. Let's go with this one. So this sort of matches with what our layout is like. We have a nav bar on the top, and then we have some sort of image on the right, and some text that is going on. Obviously this is animated. We won't be animating anything because we don't have enough time to demonstrate that, but yeah, we'll be having a static design. Fine. So I'll just pull in an image real quick. All right, so since it's a recipe website, I think we can put some food here, right? And just a piece of advice, try to keep your designs as simple and as minimal as possible initially, because this gives you the room to improvise, right? If you have a very busy design initially and that is what is being developed, then you can't change a lot of things, right? But if it's something which is minimal, we can obviously keep making changes and keep making it better and better, right? So that's what we'll be doing. We'll be
Could
designing
you
a very
suggest a site for images also?
sure. So you can go to, there are multiple websites. The one that I usually prefer is Unsplash, because this is free and you don't need to provide any attributions. So you can use websites like Unsplash, or if I'm not wrong, it's something called as Pexels. Pexels, I guess. Yeah. So this is also a very good website from where you can get images. All right. So stock images you can get for free. So if I search, let's say food, yeah, you can get all these stock images that you can use. And if you decide to use any sort of illustrations, then you can you can basically just search it up, like illustrations for, let's say UI design, right? And yeah, FreePic is one resource that I use very often. Then there is something, Undraw, if I remember correctly. Yeah, this is also a very good library of illustrations that you can use. So you can note down all of these, or if you want later, I'll compile all of these resources and provide to you guys. Okay.
So that would be helpful, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. So we have our resources. We have, you see, we have all these UI designs and everything. You can take inspirations from. Fine. So we have an image. Now all we need to do is provide some text here, right? So what do we have here? Let's see. Let's analyze this design a little bit more. So we have a heading, we have some sort of paragraph which is explaining what this entire website is, what service this entire website is providing. And yeah, I see a couple of buttons in here. All right, fine. Let's proceed with this. Is there anything else that we can look into? This looks similar. And I think this is follow a similar design, right? So we have a heading, paragraph, and then a button. Fine, let's go with this. So, okay, let's put in a heading, and let's just type something. Okay. Right. Cool. So this seems like a good enough heading. So this looks pretty small for this heading, right? So we'll increase the font size and the font weight. Let's make it 48. All right, let's make it 48, and let's increase the font weight. Cool. All right, so this looks pretty good. Let's just cut out a little bit. Let's just keep it this much. Okay. Let's maintain minimalism. So we have a heading. Let's also include a tagline. Dignity of cool. So since this is a subheading, or rather a sort of tagline, this can't be, big. This can't look bigger than this heading. And these are some of the design choices that are very important, because a lot of designers would make these mistakes because they highlight each and everything because they feel like everything is important, which is true. Everything in a website, or rather in a web page, is important. But then you have to sort of, decide sort of a hierarchical preference that a user should give while analyzing this entire website. So right now, if anybody sees it, very first attention will be caught by this specific heading, then this tagline, right? So let's change the color of this. Let's make it the color of our accent color. This looks pretty good. Okay. Cool. And let's include, let's change the font size first. All right. Let's include the paragraphs. So I'll generate some paragraph real quick. Also, when you're designing any of these websites or developing, do take help of as much AI tools as possible right now. Okay, because I've seen a lot of beginners, what they do is they try to do everything on their own, like even coming up with the content, everything. But rather, what you should be doing is just focusing on the designing part if you're learning designing initially. All right. Fine. So we have some sort of text over here, and let's also pull in some buttons. So for button, what I can do is I can just replicate this as well. All right, and let's change the text. All right, let's have two buttons. Let's call this learn. So fine, this looks pretty good, but I can see one flaw with these buttons, or rather one poor design choice that I made here. And can anybody try to point out what they feel is wrong with these two buttons?
You could have a
The
different
width of the
color.
two buttons are different.
They both are same in color, same in design.
Size is different. Size is different.
Right, not exactly the
Sizes are not
size.
equal.
Yeah, that size is fine, but somebody mentioned, I didn't see the name, but somebody mentioned that the colors are same, and that is a very important part in designing, right?
Yeah.
Because now these two seem like equally important, but as a designer, you need to decide which link is more important, right? So first, let's increase the padding a little bit. It looks a little bit nice. So if I'm designing a website, if I'm owning this website, I would like my users to come and directly browse the recipes, right? I wouldn't like to confuse what's going on with these two buttons, because these two seem equally important, right? When it comes to designing, there's a certain rule that you must have heard of, or if you didn't have, it's called a 50, 30, and a 10% rule, right? So what is this 50 to 30, 10 rule? If I can recall the numbers right, basically what it means is it deals with your color palette, right? Now, how does it deal with the color palette? So if you can see here in this entire website, or rather not the website, this entire frame that we have here, the majority of the portion is covered by our background color, right? So this is the 50 part. This is covering the majority of the portion of this web page. So it gives us an idea, all right, fine. Whatever is in white is not important. We don't care about it. Rather, this orange seems to be important because this is a call to action. Okay. So we want the users to come and click on these two buttons. One is the account, if they want to see their account, and one is browse recipes. So how do we take off their eyes from this learn more button? So what you can do is you can sort of just remove the background color and add a border to it, right? Let me show you what I mean. So if I just give it a border of 2 pixels, remove the background and change the color of this text as orange, right? So can you notice the difference now? Does it look better? Now, whenever a user lands here in this landing page, what they can see is a pretty neat design, only focusing on the content, maybe some food that you're selling, or maybe some food that is on your website, a certain amount of text that basically describes what your website is doing, and 2 call to actions, right? So now looking at this website, any user can have an idea. I'll just have equal padding here as well. Let's make it 18, right? But any user that is coming here will sort of know that fine, this specific button and this specific button is important to me, right? And that's where I should click in. So I think this is a pretty good start which we can have, right, or which you can have when designing a website. So we had a landing page. Nice. So let's proceed with designing, for the websites. Yeah, sure. Somebody raised their hand. You can speak.
Yeah, hi Rohit. I was asking then what is the use of the last color that you haven't used till now? One is the background color, one is the main color, one is the second color. What's the one used from?
You mean this gray color
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
this? All right. So we'll be using this at later stages. That will show you. Okay.
Okay.
Basically, I've prepared these four colors because I feel like we need to have some sort of color between, like, okay, I'll give you an example. So let's say there is some text which I want to show as deactivated, or which is, let's say, not important for me, right? And okay, let's go with navbar. So let's just change the colors of all these to this specific gray that I've used. Yeah. Okay. Not a major difference that you can see, but now you'll see the major difference. I'll change it back to black, or rather this specific color. Now, does it give you a feeling of this feature being highlighted? Does it look like this specific nav link is active right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are the ways in which we can use a secondary color. So this white is a background color, and these two are a secondary colors. All right. So basically, you can go as creative as possible, and sort of just uh, uh, keep on experimenting with your design with all these different colors. But one thing that you need to keep in mind is the accent color that you are using here should be used very cleverly. Okay, in a very clever way. You cannot use this just randomly. Like, let's say I make all these texts as the accent color because I feel like this is also important, this is also important, so the user should read this. But does this look good? No, it doesn't, right? This looks very messy, this looks very confusing, right? So we'll go back to it and we'll sort of maintain the importance of each and every color in here. So remember, folks, color plays a very important role when it comes to designing any website, okay, or any application that you would be designing. Cool. So let's proceed with will we be dealing with giving functionality to those buttons? Yeah, very good question. So basically, the design that we are making right now will be sort of developing a very basic bare minimum uh, version of it in React later on. I'm not sure if I would be having enough time to show you the entire development process or writing the entire code in React, but I'll try my best to do so. But yeah, at later stages, we would be developing this website and deploying it to the web. And that's how you would basically get an idea of how a website is designed, developed, and then containerized, and then deployed for the public. All right, does that make sense? All right, let's proceed. So we have a landing page, and what else can we have? So what else do we have? Let's start taking some inspiration from our favorite website. All right, so I think Zomato would be nice. So what else can we have in our website? Let's see. So we have a landing page. All right, not much going on. Okay, let's go back to Dribble. Let's say a recipe web app UI design. Okay. Let's see what we can find. Let's look around for ideas.
We
All
could
right.
add testimonials or photo gallery, or at the bottom we could also add address or a map or something like that.
Yeah, I think you guys can give in your ideas and let's see what works out. I think we can go with sort of a gallery. What comes to my mind is we can go with the food catalog. All right. Okay, fine. Let's go with a recipe catalog. So I'll duplicate this frame. Now, what is the reason for duplicating this frame? I could have created a new frame, right? Well, I want to preserve this nav bar of mine because I think while development or when the website is fully developed, this nav bar is one thing that will be common in all the pages, right? So I'll just duplicate this entire frame here. Cool. And I'll get rid of this portion because we don't need it. Okay, so let's see what we can do. We can build some cards, food cards. Let's see. Right, not much. Okay, we can do something like this. We can have an image and then we can have some description about it. Fine. Let's go with that. So, all right. Let's start designing a card. We have shapes here. So again, I can use a shape. Let's say this is my placeholder for the image. And this is the process that I feel like you should follow. Don't start away putting in images and all the content initially. Just start with placeholders first. Then you'll have an idea of what your website will almost look like. Right? So let's say we'll have our image here. Okay. And some text going around here. All right. So let's put some text. What is this? This is, I feel like this can be the cuisine style, like Chinese, Italian, continental. All right, but let's start putting in the text first. And let's give it a title to the chicken, say. All right. And all right, this looks good enough. Not exactly, but the content. And let's I'll pull in some paragraph again. Let's not waste time in typing anything.
Sorry, but it is living on YouTube.
I'm not sure. I guess it is. Sumit, can you confirm?
Yeah, it is live on YouTube. I'll share the link in the chat.
Okay.
All right. So we have about the content that we want to show. So let's again, let's prioritize what text the user needs to see first, right? So the title is more important. So let's put it for 24 pixels and let's make it semi-bold. And this is not so important. So let's make it 16 pixels. And yeah, let's keep this paragraph as 14 pixels. Okay. We can also change the color of this specific text to a gray. And this is where this specific color comes in, which was asked by one of you, like where we use it. So this is the secondary color that we will be using. All right.
What is the font you're using here, sir?
It's actually the default font that you have here, which is Enter. So this is the default font provided by Figma.
Okay.
All right, you can use any font that you like, or you can also import fonts. But let's go with the default one because this looks good. All right. So I think this looks good enough. This maintains the visual balance of each and every text. We have proper spacing, right? But we are missing out on one thing. Yeah,
one
sure.
question, sir. Sorry.
Yeah.
So this font, this you've shown, this can be, will it be available on the Google this thing, and it be imported if I sign a website?
I think most of these fonts are available. Let's check it once. Let's go to Google Fonts. And I think this is a very good point pointed out by you. I think a very good practice would be to actually first check a font which is available in Google Fonts if you're using Google Fonts. And then only use it, right? So I think this is Enter, yeah. Yeah, it's available. You have different versions. You have Enter and you have Enter type. Yeah, so it's there. So you can use it.
Right.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
So we have our text. Let's also put in a button, and we already have a button designed here. So let's take this one. All right. And let's stretch it a little bit. I think this is fine. Let's give it a border. But we still didn't do a very important step that I told you guys about. Can anybody point out? Does anybody remember? Right now, everything is just an individual element. What are we missing?
Framing it.
We didn't frame it all together.
Right.
Auto.
So we didn't convert this into auto layouts, right? So we'll start converting each and every element into auto layout. This is already a frame. Let's make this image as a frame. So here you can see everything became a frame. Let's select all these elements and Shift A. So I think it's better if we frame these first, right? Then we can do this. No? Okay. At times, see, this is what can happen. Now, why is this happening? This is because the property over here is set as flex ramp, right? Let's make it vertical, and I think that should work. Yeah. Cool. But for some reason, I see that my width has increased. Let's arrow it down. And for this specific frame, let's decrease the padding. Okay, this looks very spaced out as of now. I think, okay. Let's make it 0 for now. Cool. Now let's space it out a little bit. Fine. So I think this looks pretty good. I'll just hold on a second. Yeah. So I'm not able to get proper spacing in here, and these are the challenges that you will run into, right? So even though you might be very comfortable with using auto layouts, there will be certain times when your layout just wouldn't work out as you want it to, right? And in those times, what you can do is you can choose to not use auto layout, right? Because right now what is happening is everything has a constraint of auto layout being followed, right? So everything is sticking together, but it doesn't look nice in this case, does it? It doesn't, right? So what we can do is we can decide to make a choice. Now remember, there is no rule of thumb when it comes to designing. Basically, whatever looks good is what you go with. All right. Has somebody raised their hand? No?
Yeah. Just a follow-up question regarding the fonts related doubt somebody had.
Yeah.
I believe all these are web fonts.
Yeah, pretty much. So Enter is one standard form. You can font. You can use Poppins. I think Poppins is also there as an option. I'll just search it up. This might not be there by default. I don't remember if I installed it later on, but yeah, it's there. So all these are web fonts mostly, and you can find it, I think, very easily in Google Fonts.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So as I was saying, we can choose not to proceed with auto layout, right? So let's just go back to whatever we had earlier. Let's just come out of this auto layout. Now, how am I doing it? Control Z, very well-known shortcut, keyboard shortcut. All right. So about there. I don't think it's working out. Okay, never mind. We'll extract each and everything. Fine. We'll place it separately. This button looks good. Okay, so now we have a card ready with us. Okay, let's decrease the size of this image. And yeah, so this looks okay-ish, but this looks very empty because we don't have any image as of now. And let's see how we can set an image inside of Figma, inside a container. Okay, so here you go to fill. Here you have an option on the top. It's a very small icon. I hope you guys can see it. And then you just choose an image. So I already have a few images here. Let's go with this one. All right. Not exactly the what the text is about, but just as a placeholder. I'll see if I have. Do we have any pizzas here? Okay. No, we don't have. All right, never mind. We'll just use this image. Just assume this is the food we are talking about. All right, fine. So yeah, let's proceed. So here we have a card ready, and but this looks sort of, out of bounds. Like we don't have a proper boundary to it. Right. So what we can do is we can add a border to it. Okay. So let's put a border. Let's draw a border around it. Not exactly here. All right, fine. I think I'll change the text later on. Fine. Okay. It didn't work out. Well, see, these are the challenges that you'll run into while designing. Okay, I must have done this thousands of times before, but still, right now it's not working out. Okay, never mind. So let's duplicate these without the border itself. Oh, first let's change the text. Doesn't fit real. Okay, what do we call it? Let's call it with samosa. Fine. Indian dish. Let it be the same. Good. All right. Fine. So we can have multiple cards in our website, right? And we can align it. A lot of clapping going on. Good. Cool. So it looks like it's taking the look of a catalog page. Fine. Let's extend this a bit. Yeah. So don't mind these repetitive images. Just the idea is important. So we have the cards here. What else can we have? What else can we have? I think we can have
opinion of the team members, of the the participants who are already present in the group. As it's the recipe, though some users must be there. How good this website is, or how testimonials would look great below them.
Can you come again?
I was saying testimonials of the site members, or the community would look great. How good the recipes are, or how interactive people are, something like that.
Yeah,
As
that's
we are
a
building
that's
a
that's
community,
a that's a really good idea. But the thing is that we would also be developing this website later on, right? And we would be trying to put in some functionality into it, because it can't be all static, because then you won't learn how a backend is integrated properly with this entire design. So
Or can we have a system where, as it is a food related website, can we make a filter option where it sorts out like vegan or vegetarian, non-vegetarian?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Let's proceed with that one. All right, so where we can place it? We can place it on top. That's a very general area that we can place it into.
We can also add a search bar.
All right, we'll also add a search bar. Good. Right.
Hey everyone, we can't put that much features. We have time constraints, so we have like designed the UI from scratch and then do the development part. So the session will go for 5 to 6 hours. We don't have much time,
I
just
think
2 hours.
I think we can manage, Sumit. Let's just design one more page and then we'll jump into development, if that's fine. All right. Okay, so what can we have?
Search bar would be right.
All right, fine. Let's go with the search bar. So a search bar is rectangular. Okay, and note how I design all of these. But this doesn't look very great, so I'll remove the background color. Let's stick to a border of secondary color, because that's not that important to me as a user from the visual point of view. Let's increase the border radius, and it's a bit too high. And let's place a placeholder. So let's call it search. Again, this text is not very important to me. I'll take it down. And let's make it medium. So I think this looks pretty good as a search bar. Not like a very professional one, but I think that would do the job. Cool. But this looks a little out of place. Let's define a boundary. So we'll use a line here, right? Again, this can't be black because this is a divider, so we'll sort of give it a very light color, right? And let's give it a heading. Okay. Let's call it recipes. Okay. Since it's a heading, we'll choose the font size as, let's say, 24. Increase the font weight. Semi-bold is fine. 28. Sorry, 24. Let's keep it 24. And let's align this. Okay. Right, so let's leave it there. We can have filter options over here as well, and since we are aiming to make some minimal looking design.
Can you show one more thing, like how to add the icon? In the search bar, we have a magnifying glass icon. So how to add that?
Which magnifying?
In the search bar, we have an option,
Okay,
right?
all right, I get it, what you're saying. Fine. All right, just a second. So in Figma, you have a feature. Basically, you have a marketplace, which you can call, from where you can pull it plugins, right? So if I go to manage plugins, this is where you can get all the plugins, right? So this is a plugin that is generally used, which is material design, and these are the icons that are generally provided by Google. All right. So if I have to show you the material design icons, if you are not familiar with it, material design icons. All right. So these are the official icons that are used by Google in their websites and in their applications. So here you can see all these icons, right? And these look pretty cool. So how we use this in Figma? So we have a plugin which is called material design, right? So we go to this top left, sorry, here. We go to plugins, we go to material design icon. And give it some time. Cool, here we have. So here we can search whatever icon we want, right? And these are all standard SVG icons that you can use. You can change the colors as well. So let's call it, what are we going to put? We're going to put a magnifying glass, right? But I think it's called search in Google. Yeah, thank you. So let's put this one. So it's a little too big. I'll shrink the size. Put it here. I think this is the general area where it usually is. Or maybe we can put it here in front of search. But we'll have to change the color because this is a little too highlighting. We'll place it right here. So does this look fine? I think it looks fine. Fine. So now you know how you can include icons. There are a lot of different icons that you can use. You can have hamburger menus over here, as you see. Right. You have menus, then you have alarm clocks, person, arrows, and whatever you need, you have it here, right? So we have icons here, and let's copy this. We can copy this for the filter. Let's call it price. Sorted by price. What else can we have? We can have it by veg, non-veg. So, okay, let's get rid of this. These could be our filters. Let's change the font size. It doesn't need to be that big. This could be 14 pixel. Okay, we don't want it to be highlighted. Fine. Not a very great looking header, but I think this will do the job. Basically, you can have an understanding of what we are trying to do, right? So are you guys following what we are doing till now? Like, are you guys comfortable with how we are proceeding? Or if you guys have any suggestions, then you feel free to unmute and then let me know. That's fine. All right, so we'll proceed. So what else can we put in? I think we can put in we're missing out on a very important page, which is the description of each of these items, right? Because when we will be building this application later on in day 2 and day 3, what we will be doing is we'll be basically having a sort of a form where you can put in the details of the recipe. You'll upload it, it'll go to the database. From there, you'll fetch it through an API, we'll make API requests, and then we'll populate a page with all the important details of each of these recipes. Okay, so let's design that website. Again, we'll clone it because we don't want to lose our nav bar, and we'll get rid of these. Cool. So till now we were going very slow, but let's pick up the pace a little bit. I think you guys would be able to handle it. So let's challenge ourselves. Let's start with speed designing, all right? And that is one thing that you should know how to do. That's very important. All right, cool. So all right, let's pick up the pace. So what can we have here? What I can imagine is I can have some sort of an image here of whatever website of whatever food recipe that we are looking into. This could be the image here. I think this size would be fine. And here we can have some descriptive text. All right. Here we can have a list of ingredients. Obviously, I'm not drawing anything, but I'm just imagining. You can follow my. Here we can have a list of ingredients, and at the bottom we can have the cooking instructions. All right, cool. So let's give it a border radius of 11. Let's give it an image. Let's give it a cool. So we have an image, right? Good. We can have some descriptive text here. So let's add a heading. Let's call it I don't know, looks like a salad to me. I don't know what exactly this is, but yeah, let's call it a mixed salad. Have a divider which would be dividing the header from the paragraph. Okay, we'll change the colors later on, but right now the placeholder is important. Okay, we can have some sort of image. Again, I'll just generate it real quick. Let's go with my previous prompt of pizza. All right, fine.
So one question,
Okay,
if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So in this web, are we planning that we can upload the recipes also, or just check the available?
We can. So basically, this entire workshop that we are conducting is divided into 3 days, as I mentioned earlier. Today we'll be looking into how we design each and everything, right? Like how we start with designing from scratch. On day 2, tomorrow, we would be developing the backend part of it, and on day 3, we would actually be integrating the front end and the back end. All right.
Right.
But I think you would have a pretty good understanding of which is more important is integrating the back end and the front end and then deploying it. Because as far as front end development is concerned, I think all of you guys have different tech stacks that you choose from. Somebody could be using React, somebody could be using Vue or Angular or anything. So we won't be focusing much on that part. Okay. So yeah, later on we will be having a fully functional website where you will be able to upload your recipes, and then later we can see it, or basically anybody else can see it. Okay. Flutter. Yeah, you can use Flutter as well. But we'll see what we can proceed with. All right. So here we have a text. Again, back to speed designing. What were we doing? We have our paragraph here. We can have, what I can imagine is we can have some sort of details over here, like the preparation time or the cooking time that it takes for this specific meal, or the number of people that it can serve, or the type of cuisine it is. So, all right, let's do it real quick. I'll start cloning. It could be the prep time. This could be the cooking time. Okay. This could be number of servings. Well, let's do it this way. Okay. Again, what is important here? Can anybody point out what is important for the user to see among these two?
The time.
2 hours.
Right. So we'll emphasize more on this. So how do we decrease the visibility of this specific text? Can anybody recall?
Color
Changing the
changing.
accent.
Right. So we change the color and we decrease the weight. Let's say, and we can decrease the font size. Cool. So now my entire focus is on this time, right? 2 hours. Pretty good. Let's follow the same format. So we have a prep time. We have cooking time. We have the number of servings.
Add ingredients.
Yeah, ingredients would be adding later on because ingredients are generally a list, so it won't fit in here. So that's why we have this specific white space. Okay. So let's write serves. And yeah, I think this could be the cuisine that we have. Let's call it Italian. Let's stick to it. Cool. Doesn't look very good, but yeah, I think this would do the job. Okay, let's start auto alignment because we'll use it wherever we can. And okay, cool, saves a lot of time. So this looks fine. We can include icons, but let's stay with this. Okay, this color doesn't need to be so bright. It's a divider. Fine. This looks good. Good enough. Another thing, can anybody notice the use of negative space in this web page? So if you would have noticed, we are not using the entire width of the page that is available to us, right? And this brings us to another important point, which is you don't always use whatever is in front of you. Option of auto layout. So basically you click on anything, you press Shift plus A, right? So you can use the keyboard shortcut Shift plus A, and that will turn it into auto layout. Okay. Yeah. So as I was saying, you don't have to use all the space that is available to use, depending on the amount of content that you have. Just use as much as you need. Okay. So okay, fine. We have this text here. Let's copy this. Let's bring it here. Let's call it ingredients, and I'll generate some ingredient list. Okay. So here we have, okay, don't mind the text, this is from the previous prompt, but we have the ingredients that we need, and yeah, increase the divider. Ingredients we have, what else is remaining? We have the most important part left, which is the recipe. Again, clone it. Okay. So this is going to be cooking instructions. Let's call it that. All right. So, okay, just a quick raise of hands. How many of you guys have actually worked with any single page application framework such as React or Angular or Vue? Yeah, can I get a raise of hands? All right. So if you have used, you must have noticed that I'm trying to keep, or rather I'm trying to maintain some similarity between the elements. Okay. Now what do I mean by it? Here, as you can see, this looks exactly the same as this, right? And this looks exactly the same as this heading. Now, why is that? Now, while development, yeah. Do you have any questions? Okay, proceeding with it. So while developing this using a single page application like React, what we can do is we can break these down into components, right? So this can be a component, this can be a component, this can be a component. All these are just one component and we are just changing the text, right? We can do the very similar thing here. This can be divided into a component and we can just change the text. So you save time in writing the code. So these are the things that you need to sort of keep in mind while designing itself. So a lot of people, what they think is designing is just about colors and just placement of elements in the web page, but essentially it's way more than that. Okay, and this is where user interface and user experience comes in together. Okay, you don't just think from the perspective of your end user, the person who would be using this website, but you also think in terms of how this website would essentially be developed. Okay, so I think we have done a pretty good job of designing this specific page. Let's design just one last page, because since this is going to be a CRUD application, we can't proceed without a form, right? Again, I'll clone it. I don't need the site, so I'll revert it back to 1080. Cool. All right. So we can design a form. But what does a form look like? Let's see. And now you must have noticed that I'm searching up each and everything, and that's because I want to show you how an actual person who is designing a website, what does the actual process looks like, right? Like in YouTube, if you see, what they would be doing is they would just straight up be designing each and every element in Figma, right? And then you're actually clueless as to how you would be proceeding with it when you are a beginner. So a lot of people don't admit it, but what they do is essentially just they're very good at doing Google search. So never be afraid of doing any Google search, taking inspiration, or sometimes even stealing designs if you need to, right, by making your own changes. So anything is fine until it works. Okay, so if it's working, all good with it. So let's take some design. Let's see what we can proceed with. All right. Okay. All right, let's go with it. So when designing a form, a very important thing is how much, basically you need to decide what all inputs will be there, right? You just can't randomly start placing in the input boxes that you have. So, okay, let's see what all data we need for the user to submit. So we need the heading, which is the title. We need the paragraph, and we need these informations. And we also need the ingredients and cooking instructions, right? And I think this exact same data is being shown here. Yeah, we have the category, we have the title, we have the small description. So
we'll also need the user sign in and registration.
Actually, those are the features that are not actually the primary need of the website as of now.
Okay.
I mean, in a real life scenario, you're absolutely right. We would be needing sort of sign-in functionality, or rather a sign-up, an authentication functionality. But since we don't have enough time to demonstrate that to all of you guys, we'll stick to the basics. All right. So just stick to the main agenda of ours, which is just showing you how it's built and deployed. So yeah, if you have it, you can. No doubts. Okay. All right. So let's start with designing the input box. Now, what should be the height of it? Let's stick to 40 pixels. Okay. Again, we'll go a little bit fast here. Okay. We don't need it to be rectangular as such, but okay. Let's put the placeholder. Let's make it title. Okay. Font size can be, okay, let's keep it 16. Okay. Round edges, because round edges are in trend right now. And this doesn't look pretty good. So we'll get rid of the background color. Maybe we'll add a stroke. We'll just add a border. Or maybe we can go with this design. I guess you guys must have seen it somewhere. You can type it here. Here you have the title. Okay, so we have one input ready. And what we can do is we can essentially just keep cloning these, because at the end of the day, this is going to be one component, right? So it all looks the same. So we have title, we have cuisine style. Let's clone it. We need prep time. What else do we need? We need cooking time, serving. All right. Cooking time. Serves. Let's call it serves. Okay. Then we can have sort of a placeholder for ingredients. Okay. So let's call it ingredients. Okay. And cool. So we can have, now this looks a bit different than the rest of the input boxes, and there's a reason for it. I'll tell you. So if you think in terms of what the ingredients look like over here, so can you notice, can somebody point out what is different in this paragraph and this paragraph?
List, I mean, it's numbered.
Right. So it's list, right? So that means it can be stored in an array. Can we do it while developing? We can, right?
Yes.
So we, at the time of inserting data, we can also store it in terms of a list. But how would the developer use it? So we can input our data here. We can start typing here, and we can have a button, and every time we click a button, it gets added to the list. So let's pull this button here. All right. Okay. Let's call this add. Okay, this looks fine. So as soon as we add the ingredients, we can imagine it popping up here as a list. Can we? Let's change the styling a little bit to make it stand out. And all right. We can do the same for what else do we have? We have cooking instructions. Okay. Cooking instructions. So I think this makes sense. Whatever we add basically gets added here in like list, like ingredient 1, so on and so forth. You get the point, right? Whatever we insert here it shows up here as soon as we're adding it. Let's not put it there. So I think I'm running a little out of time. So let's try to wrap it up real quick.
You have to put the description of the recipe also.
Which one?
If you go to the previous page.
This one, right? Yeah. Yeah, I forgot it. All right, we can make some space, I guess. All right, let's do it. Let's add. Now, when it comes to form, keep one thing in mind: there is no a certain way of designing a form. Basically, whichever suits like your website or like your needs, that can be the best for you, right? So like here it doesn't look very good, but then again, functionality wise this is pretty good. You can have a name, email, phone, subject, message. So we can follow a similar design here, but since we are running out of time, we can just description. Let's call it description. Cool. So this doesn't look like a very modern design of a form, but I think you get the point on how we did the placements, right? Now, can anybody tell me why I placed certain items horizontally and then why I placed certain items or certain input fields vertically? I could have placed ingredients side by side, right, to cooking instruction. I could have utilized this entire space, but still I decided to place it this way.
In a recipe, the amount, the categorical items that are horizontally would be one. There would be one choice only. But those who are aligned vertically, they will have multiple choices, multiple ingredients, multiple instructions, and a variety of. No, I mean description should be
right. You're right. You're absolutely right. That could be one of the point. But another thing, if you can notice, is we are basically grouping all these inputs depending on what they are like. For example, we have title, cuisine, cooking time, prep time. These are the very basics of a recipe, right? Title, cuisine, prep time, cooking time, serves. Not everybody needs to know what ingredients are going into it, what cooking instructions are there for it, what description it holds, right? But these are similar type of data. Can I say that? Because this is sort of a one-line data that we are entering, like not one line, I would say, but short text, and this is going to be the long text. So I've left spaces over here so that if the user enters a very long ingredient with the quantity or a very long cooking instruction, we have ample amount of space over here to reflect it. Okay, so these are the choices that you make while designing a form. I would give it a border real quick, get rid of the background color, stroke, and yeah.
So one question. You'll have to remove the add button from description and put a submit button for the total form, I think.
Yeah, very good point.
Upload also.
Good point. So yeah, so I think we can include. I think this needs to be there, but
yeah,
okay, we can remove it. We can remove it. Good. All right. Because this is not going to be a list. This will be a single paragraph. Let's make some room for a button.
A quick question.
Yeah.
So far, I see in Figma, it's all a static design. Right. Using Figma, can we create interactive designs as well? For example, you have
absolutely. So there is something called as a prototype. If you can see here on the right hand side, there's something called as a prototype. And what this basically allows you to do is you can sort of enable interactions, right? So you can have prototype settings. So basically what it is, if you go to the documentation, and this is another important point, you need to learn how to read documentations. Even when you're a designer, there might be times when you're reading documentations for icons, for certain icons, and how what's the usage of it, and some documentation related to Figma itself or Adobe XD, right? There could be such cases.
So you mean to say it's all about the interaction, nothing but jumping between pages, right?
Not exactly. Okay, if I have to show you, I mean, yeah, it's there. You can jump between pages, but then you can also enable animations. For example, if I have to put a hover state into it, let's say in this button, a hover state is a very common state that we use, right? So what you can do is you can define another button, which would be the after of how your button would look like after a hover state. All right, let's say if I hover over it and the color changes to, let's say, black, then I would define it differently, and then using prototype we can connect those dots.
Yeah, but
Okay.
my question is specific to the
Animation, you
drop-down.
mean?
No, not the animation. Can I insert a drop-down menu here?
No, that you can't. As
Okay.
far as I'm aware of it, that's what you don't do in Figma, or what you can't do in Figma. Mostly you'll just proceed with designing the static part of it. All right. At max,
Okay.
what you would want to do is just the animation.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So let's add the submit button. Okay. Does the job. Okay. So I think it's 9:30 already, and we have designed a home page. We have designed a recipe page, like a catalog page. We have designed the product description, or rather the recipe description, and we have designed a upload form. So I think these 4 pages are sufficient to demonstrate a proper CRUD operation that we would be developing later on. Obviously, you can choose any front-end library or framework of your choice. I thought I'd be having enough time to demonstrate it in React itself. That's what I actually plan to do. But since I've ran out of time, I think we'll keep it for some other day, in some other session if possible. We'll dedicate one session. If you all want, you can request the organizers, and we can have another session where I can show you how we exactly clone what we have in Figma using React. Okay, so that's all up to you guys, but I think we did a pretty good job with your collaboration. A lot of you guys helped me out. I was totally blank as to what I would be designing. I didn't pre-plan anything, but yeah, I think we did a good job. I'm a beginner. I don't know about React. Can I attend the next meet to learn more? Okay, there are a lot of messages flowing in. I'll just read a few of them. Let's see what I can answer. Somebody told something about them being new to React. So if you're new to React, I'm not sure if in the next session I would be demonstrating the exact thing, because next sessions are reserved specifically for backend development and integrating API into it. But yeah, when I'm integrating the API on day 3, I would try my level best to explain how each and everything is working. If you're a beginner in React, it would be pretty easy for you to understand. You can unmute your mics and ask if you want.
Yeah, hi Rohit. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the wonderful session. I get to learn a lot about Figma, and coincidentally, I was part of another event as well where I had to start using Figma today. So I had just had, a basic experience regarding Figma today, and now I am also getting a masterclass about it. Very, very thank you for that.
I'm
And
so
I
glad
have
I
two
can.
questions.
Yeah.
I have like 3 questions. First of all, is as I was designing my project for in Figma, I noticed that when you add a picture into the the shape, what it does is it chooses the alignment of picture on its own. Suppose I am adding a photo of a man into it, it might take the photo of it might set up as the photo of the face only, but I don't want that. Suppose what if I want to showcase his hand or other hand, yeah, something like that. So how are you going to realign the photo inside a shape? I'd be very grateful if you could show that.
All
And
right.
the
So do you
another
mean
question,
like?
yeah.
I think I got what you're trying to ask. By the way, I forgot to mention that using Figma, you can also get your CSS codes from here, right? So whatever property that we are using here, I told you this is going to be a flexbox. So see, we have the properties of flexbox here. So we have display flex width. So if you are struggling with designing it in CSS, what you can do is you can just copy these codes and you can define a class and then you can connect it.
How did you get that, sir? Can you just?
Yeah. So here is a button that you can see on top right. This looks like a CSS or
Yes.
sorry, an HTML tag actually. You can click on it and then you can click on anything. So let's say I have okay. Let's say I have this specific text, right? So instead of just beating around the bush on what the font size is and
Yes.
what the font
You
properties
got the
are,
style sheet.
yeah,
Right.
you have the style sheet readily available to you, so you can do that as well. You have the width, you have font family, size, everything you have. You can just copy and paste.
This would be CSS, right?
This is pure CSS, but if you are using SCSS, this will also work because these don't get affected by your processor. Right. Yeah, so I was showing the images, I think. Yeah. Let's say, okay. So let's say I'll just define a box here. All right. And who asked the question? Can you please raise your hand?
Me, Naveen.
Yeah, Naveen. Yeah, okay. So do you mean that if I'm trying to place an image inside of it, this doesn't show the exact portion of the image that you want to?
Yeah.
All right. So what you can do is you can basically choose the image. So you see this is in the portrait orientation, right? The image that we have here, this one specifically. This is a portrait.
Yeah.
Right. So let's go with a horizontal, a landscape. So now some of this is clipped out, and you want a certain image. Let's say I want to show this frame, right? What you can do is you can go to this option and you can choose crop, right? And then you can simply drag it. Is that what your doubt was?
Yeah. That's what the problem I was facing this evening. Okay, great. And one more thing, suppose if I am designing a shape in which I want like it's a coalition of 3 colors. Suppose like you added that search bar over here or did on the top. Suppose what if I want to add this search bar put into another design of the same shape and this along with the another design of the same shape. So where what I was problem I was facing was that they were not aligning as they should be. They were like one portion is went behind the box or other got in the forward, or I was not able to align the color setup with this. It was a bit
right.
Hello.
I think there is a network lag, something from
Hello. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
But it seems like the Rohit sir's hand has been frozen.
Yeah, he'll get back in a few minutes. He's having some network issue, so please wait.
Okay. Okay, yeah, no worries.
Just
Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Sorry, guys. I had some network issue. Yeah. So that is one of the many common problems that people actually face in Figma. Even I faced it at one point of time. But the thing is, as much as you practice, you'll get comfortable with it, and keep trying out different things. Keep learning and keep experimenting with your designs, and then you can have a pretty good career in UI UX designing if you want to. If at all you want to become a UI UX designer or a web designer. Is there Any doubts?
Yeah, I had one last question. As you were using the term component multiple times in the session, then you there were parts of it. So how what is a component? How is it used, or what could be help us with that?
So Naveen, actually, I'll be explaining this components and what this term component means and how they work on day 3. All right. So that's where we will be discussing how components are there, how basically how components are used in web development and in different frameworks. Basically, we'll be using it in React, but the concept is absolutely same in any library or any framework that you want to use it in. Okay. So if you want to learn more about React, then stay tuned on day 3. We'll be covering it like even further.
Oh, okay, okay. Once again, thank you for responding to all of my queries and solving
Thank you
them.
so
And
much.
I'd like to thank everyone for the event. Thanks, Rohit.
My pleasure.
Uh,
What will we learn tomorrow? So guys, tomorrow we'll be taking a look at the backend development part. So basically how this entire process works is first we design the user interface, then the backend is developed, and then based on the API, we connect it with the front end part. Okay, so front end will be prepared separately. There's a chance that if possible, I'll try to show you the development process, but if not possible, we'll directly proceed with integrating the API. So tomorrow we would actually be working on the backend development part, and that session will be taken by Sashank, and that is going to be an absolutely amazing session. I can assure you that. A lot of people who don't know about backend development, I think it's a very good place to start for beginners. Sorry. Will this site work on phone? Okay, so what we have designed is only the design part. This can work in a phone if proper media queries are enabled. Okay, if the codes are written for media queries, if it's responsive, then it will definitely work in a phone. If you want to learn more about it, you can just do a bit of research on responsiveness. I think we extended the session a little too long. I hope that was not a problem for you guys.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other?
We have permission for till 10 p.m. so it's okay.
All right. So if we have time till 10, then I think we can address a few more doubts if there are any. Or all right, if there are no further doubts, I think we can.
We should do interaction things like anyone have doubt or anything to
Yeah,
ask.
yeah. Feel free to just interact or just let me know what was there if you have any doubts.
So designing the login page and making it responsive is also possible in Figma.
Yes, that is possible. That is absolutely possible, but that uh, comes at later stages. That is a bit more advanced topics in Figma. I couldn't get enough time today, else I would have demonstrated that as well. But yeah, if you guys want, we can have another session. I don't think we can fit in this this fest itself. But yeah, if there are any possibilities of having a session in the future, I'd be happy to be there with you guys. And Sumit, can we do it?
Like how?
If possible, we can have another session, and then people interested in
We
more
have just
design and
like 2 more sessions. The second is about
yeah,
backend
I
and
meant
So
apart
after
from
the workshop,
yeah, after
after
the
the
workshop,
workshop.
we can definitely we can
yeah,
conduct
if
another
like
workshop.
we can do it unofficially kind of, yeah, like
Yeah, on an official notice. Whatever suits you guys, that's absolutely up to you. But from my end, I'll be happy to help you guys. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or on my GitHub page. And we'll see if we can proceed on building projects together. I'd be happy to collaborate with you guys. So that was my session on today on designing user interfaces today. I hope you guys learned something and useful today. And yeah, that's it for today. Sumit, you can take over. Thank
Maybe
you
get
everyone for
your
joining in.
Thank you.
LinkedIn link.
Yeah,
Sure.
we will be dropping that LinkedIn in chat right now.
Yeah, the uh, the organizing team can take care of that, I guess. They have the
Yes,
correct
yes,
team.
yes, yes.
All right. And
Okay,
also,
so
feedback form, I guess, will be circulated. So you guys just give honest response, whatever you felt. If there was anything missing, if there was anything that we need to improve upon, let me know, okay, in that feedback form, and we'll definitely do our best to improve it from our next sessions.
So actually today we have just learned to create a prototype. It is not just actual front end.
It's not actual front end because we haven't written any code for it. So you can write the code using your choice of tech stack. Okay, you can use
So
React, you can
it is
Next.js.
totally independent. Will it be used in front end development somewhere?
As in,
The prototype that we have developed, is it
yeah.
will it be used somewhere?
Yeah, this is not okay. So Figma is not just restricted to designing websites. You can design anything in it. Okay, basically any user interface for any device, and you can use, and basically you can use these designs. You can make these layouts in any tech stack that you want. You can do it in Flutter. That's totally independent. There's no uh, restriction as such.
Means if we in further sessions when we try to develop front end, we can't link these components with that.
We definitely can, but this is just for the visual reference. Okay,
Yeah.
you cannot pull in anything directly, although there are a few libraries which you can use. I think somebody pointed it out in the chat, but yeah,
Anima is an AI tool that
yeah,
I remember plugins are there that simply create that entire page into code,
yeah,
entirety of
but
it.
then yeah, you can use those.
It's not accurate as much as you think, but yeah, it gives you a hard code base to work on. Significantly reduces the total amount of work you had to do to write that entirety of code.
Yeah, that's true, but then again, guys, I really wouldn't suggest relying totally on AI. Try coding it down by yourself. See where you're lacking, improve on those. Okay, and I think that's how you improve in development and designing. So try to do things on your own, and yeah, thank you guys. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you. It was a very good session.
Sumit, to you.
okay, so thank you so much, Rohit, for joining the session. And
My
I
pleasure.
think this is it. We will be wrapping this exhilarating day of day one. And to be honest, I present my heartfelt gratitude to you for this wonderful session. And we have one more day, right? So we look forward to seeing you again
Yeah,
with our next speaker, Mr. Shashank Reddy. And I hope that will be a great session as well. So that's it for today, guys, and we will be signing off. Thank you so much for
absolutely.
joining.
And also the organizing team did an amazing job. All these people involved in this team. I think Sumit, Diksha, Ananya, and I'm sorry, I can't see your name, but it's ASJ. I forgot your name. But yeah, you guys
Yes,
did an
Aditya.
absolutely wonderful job in organizing this event. And this, I think this idea would be really helpful. So yeah, see you guys later on. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Have a
Okay.
wonderful night. Bye.
Good night, everyone.